If you're over 65 or you love someone who still drives, stop scrolling. In 2026, the Internet is claiming seniors will be forced into yearly road tests, cognitive exams, massive fines, and even losing their licenses. But here's the truth. No one is clearly explaining. Most of what you're hearing is completely false. And one real rule does matter. Stay with me till the end, because what you don't know could cost you your independence. And trust me, this information could save you stress, money, and your license. Before we go any further, this channel is really for you. If you're over 60, retired, planning for the future, or helping your parents or grandparents navigate confusing rules like this channel was made with you in mind. No scare tactics, no internet rumors, just clear, honest explanations you can trust. I regularly upload videos breaking down confusing laws, senior benefits, driving rules, Medicare changes, and real information the internet gets wrong. So, if you want someone who actually looks out for you, hit subscribe now because I'll be uploading more videos on this exact topic and others that directly affect your freedom, finances, and peace of mind. Subscribing is free, and it makes sure you don't miss updates that the headlines won't explain clearly. If you're a driver over the age of 65, or if you have parents or grandparents who still drive, you've probably seen some scary headlines floating around the internet lately. Stories about brand new federal laws that are supposedly forcing older drivers to take all kinds of tough tests, pay huge fines, or even lose their licenses completely. Social media has been buzzing with posts claiming that the Department of Transportation has rolled out these massive new rules that will change everything for senior drivers starting in 2026. Some posts say that if you're over 70, you'll need to renew your license every single year and take a road test each time. Others claim there are mandatory cognitive tests, or that you could face fines up to $1,500 just for missing a renewal deadline. Let me tell you something important right from the start. Most of what you're seeing online is not true. In fact, a lot of these scary stories have been proven to be completely false information that was likely created by artificial intelligence programs and then spread like wildfire on social media. Major fact-checking organizations have investigated these claims thoroughly and found that they're mixing up real state-level policies that have existed for years with completely made-up federal mandates that don't actually exist. So before you start worrying or making any big decisions about giving up your car keys, let's take a deep breath and look at what's really happening versus what's just internet rumors. Here's the first real surprise that might actually make you feel better. There is no new federal law in 2026 that specifically targets senior drivers. That's right. The United States Department of Transportation has not created any nationwide rule that forces all drivers over a certain age to take cognitive tests, reaction time tests, or annual road exams. This is really important to understand because driver's licenses in America are not controlled by the federal government. They never have been. Each individual state has the power to make its own rules about who can drive and what requirements they need to meet. The federal government can't just suddenly decide to tell all 50 states how to handle driver's licenses for older adults. That's not how our system works. Driver licensing remains under complete state control, and no federal mandate exists or is planned for 2026 that would create nationwide senior driving standards, senior sight. What this means for you is that all those viral posts about mandatory annual renewals for everyone over 70 or required cognitive screenings for drivers over 80 or automatic road tests once you hit 87 years old are not describing any real federal policy. These rumors seem to have started sometime in mid-2025 and just kept spreading because they sounded official and scared a lot of people. Some of these false articles were so detailed that they even included specific dates when these fake rules would supposedly take effect, like July 1st or August 1st of 2025. But when fact-checkers dug into it, they found absolutely no evidence that any such federal policy exists or was ever even proposed. Now you might be wondering where all this confusion came from if it's not true. Well, here's the thing, these false rumours actually mix together little pieces of real information with a whole lot of fiction, which made them seem more believable. For example, there really is a state law in Illinois that's changing in July of 2026. In Illinois, they're actually raising the age at which drivers must take a mandatory road test from 79 years old up to 87 years old. That's actually a good thing for older drivers in Illinois because it means fewer people will be required to take that road test. But somehow this real Illinois law got twisted around in these viral posts and became a fake claim that the federal government was requiring all drivers over 87 nationwide to take annual road tests. See how a tiny piece of truth got completely distorted into something scary and false. The same thing happened with vision tests. Many states have required vision tests for license renewals for decades, and some of those states start requiring them at different ages. Some states make everyone take a vision test regardless of age, while others only require it once you reach a certain age, like 64, 70, or 80. These are not new rules for 2026, as they're policies that have been in place in various states for many years. But the false viral posts took this existing reality and claimed it was part of some brand new federal crackdown on senior drivers, which it absolutely is not. So that's the first real surprise. There's no scary new federal law coming for older drivers. If you've been losing sleep over this, you can relax. Your rights as a driver are not being taken away by some nationwide mandate. However, and this is important, that doesn't mean there are no rules at all for older drivers. Each state does have its own policies, and some states do have specific requirements once you reach certain ages, but these vary dramatically from state to state, and most of them are not new for 2026. Now let's talk about the second real surprise for drivers 65 and older in 2026. And this one is something that actually is real and that you do need to know about. It's called Real ID, and while it affects all drivers regardless of age, it's particularly important for seniors to understand because the deadline is coming up soon. The Real ID requirement represents the only genuine change affecting all drivers in 2025. As every driver needs a Real ID-compliant license or acceptable alternatives such as a passport for domestic air travel and accessing certain federal facilities senior site. Starting May 7th of 2025, which has already passed by the time we're in 2026, the Transportation Security Administration requires that you have a Real ID-compliant driver's license, a passport, or another approved form of identification if you want to board a domestic flight within the United States, or if you want to enter certain federal facilities like military bases or federal carouses. This is not specifically targeting seniors at all. It applies to absolutely every person, regardless of age, but it's something that a lot of older adults might not be aware of. And if you travel by plane to visit family or go on vacation, you need to make sure your license is Real ID compliant, or that you have your passport ready. How do you know if your current driver's license is Real ID compliant? It's actually pretty easy to check. Just look at the top right corner of your license. If you see a star symbol, usually a gold or black star, then your license is already Real ID compliant and you're all set. If there's no star, then you have a standard license and you'll need to either get it upgraded to a Real ID license or plan to use your passport when you fly. The good news is that upgrading to a real ID is not complicated, but it does require you to visit your local DMV in person. You can't do it online or by mail. You'll need to bring documents that prove your identity, like your birth certificate or passport. Documents that prove your social security number, like your social security card or a W-2 tax form, and 2 documents that prove your current address, like a utility bill or bank statement. The reason this matters for 2026 is that many seniors who haven't travelled by plane recently might not even realise that their old licence won't work anymore for flying. You don't want to show up at the airport excited for a trip to see your grandkids only to be turned away at security because your licence doesn't have that star on it. So, if you haven't already gotten your real ID, make that a priority. Call your local DMV and ask what documents you need to bring, then schedule an appointment and get it taken care of. It's the same process whether you're 25 or 85 years old, and it has nothing to do with any special rules for older drivers. It's simply a nationwide security requirement that affects everyone. Now here's the third real surprise, and this is where things get a bit more complicated, because the rules really do vary quite a bit, depending on which state you live in. While there's no new federal law targeting seniors, individual states do have their own policies for older drivers, and it's really important that you understand what your specific state requires. Some states have had age-related requirements in place for many years, and a few states have made small updates or clarifications to their policies recently, but these are not the dramatic nationwide changes that the viral rumours claimed. Let's talk about what some states actually require. In California, for instance, drivers who are 70 years old or older must renew their license in person and pass a vision test every time they renew. They cannot renew online or by mail like younger drivers can. The renewal period is every 5 years. But here's what's important. Unless there's a specific safety concern that's been reported, you don't automatically have to take a road test just because you're over 70. The vision test is the main requirement, and if you pass that and there are no red flags about your driving, you get your renewed license. In Florida, drivers who are 80 years old or older must pass a vision test with every renewal, which happens every 6 years. Again, this is not a new rule for 2026. It's been the policy in Florida for quite a while. If you're a Florida resident under 80, you don't have this requirement. Texas has a tiered system based on age. If you're between 79 and 84 years old, they'll issue you an 8-year license, but you must renew in person and pass a vision exam. Once you turn 85, your license is only valid for 2 years instead of 8, which means you'll need to come back more frequently. But again, the main requirement is the vision test, unless something else raises a concern. Illinois has what many consider to be one of the stricter policies, but even that is changing to be less strict. Currently, drivers aged 75 and older in Illinois must take a road test at every renewal. But as I mentioned earlier, starting in July of 2026, that age is being raised to 87. So, if you're a senior driver in Illinois between ages 75 and 86, you're actually going to have an easier time starting in July because you won't be required to take that road test anymore. Only drivers 87 and older will need to do the road test. That's the exact opposite of what those false viral rumours claimed. New York actually doesn't have age-specific rules at all. Every driver in New York, whether they're 20 or 90, needs to provide vision certification when they renew. But there's no special extra requirement just because you're older. Georgia requires residents who are 64 and older to complete a vision exam at every renewal. And that age threshold of 64 is actually one of the younger starting points in the country. Meanwhile, some states like Alabama have almost no age-specific requirements at all and simply require renewal every 4 years for everyone. What does all of this mean for you? It means that the only way to really know what rules apply to you is to check with your own state's Department of Motor Vehicles. Don't rely on social media posts or even on articles that try to summarize rules for all 50 states, because the situation is so different in each place that you really need to look up your specific state. The good news is that this information is easy to find. Just go to your state's official DMV website and look for the section on license renewal. Most states have a specific page explaining requirements for senior drivers or older adults. You can also call your local DMV office directly and ask them to explain what you'll need to do when it's time for your renewal. Here's another important point about state rules. In most states, even if there are age-related requirements like vision tests or in-person renewals, you will not automatically lose your license just because you're getting older. Age alone is not a reason for your license to be taken away. What states are trying to do is make sure that drivers of all ages, but especially older drivers who may be experiencing age-related changes, are still able to see well enough and drive safely enough to be on the road. If your vision is still good, if you're alert and capable, and if your driving record is clean, you should be able to renew without any major problems in almost every state. However, there are situations where additional testing might be required beyond the standard vision check. For example, if your doctor reports to the DMV that you have a medical condition that might affect your driving, like severe dementia or uncontrolled seizures, the DMV might ask you to come in for further evaluation. If you've been in multiple accidents or gotten several traffic tickets, that could also trigger a requirement for a road test, regardless of your age. Some states also allow family members, law enforcement, or other concerned individuals to report a driver they believe might be unsafe. If such a report is filed, you might be called in for a medical review or driving test. This reporting system has caused some concern because people worry it could be abused, but the data shows that most reports actually come from doctors who have legitimate health concerns about their patients, not from neighbours trying to cause trouble. If you are asked to take a road test or a cognitive screening based on a specific concern, try not to see it as a punishment. Think of it as an opportunity to prove that you're still a safe and capable driver. Many seniors who have gone through these evaluations have actually said afterwards that it gave them more confidence and peace of mind. They know they've been checked out and cleared, and their family members feel better too. Some states even offer restricted licenses as a compromise for drivers who maybe shouldn't be driving in all conditions, but who are still perfectly safe in certain situations. For example, you might get a license that's valid only for daytime driving if night vision is a problem for you, or a license that restricts you to driving within a certain radius of your home if you're not comfortable on highways anymore. These restricted licenses let people keep their independence and mobility without putting themselves or others at unnecessary risk. Let's talk about what you should do to prepare as an older driver in 2026. First, and most important, schedule a visit with your eye doctor for a comprehensive vision exam, especially if it's been a year or more since your last one. Don't wait until right before your license expires to do this. Your vision can change gradually, and you might not even realize that you're having trouble seeing as clearly as you used to, especially at night or when there's glare from headlights. An eye doctor can tell you if you need glasses or if your prescription needs to be updated, and they can check for conditions like cataracts or glaucoma that are more common as we age. If your vision is correctable with glasses or contacts, make sure you're wearing them when you drive and bring them with you to the DMV. Second, check your state DMV's website well before your license expiration date. Find out exactly what you'll need to bring with you, whether you need to make an appointment in advance, and what tests or screenings will be required. If you need to gather documents like your birth certificate or social security card for a real ID upgrade, give yourself plenty of time to locate those papers. If you've moved and they're in storage somewhere, or if you need to order a replacement copy of your birth certificate, that can take weeks. Third, consider taking a defensive driving course designed for older adults. Organizations like AARP offer classes called Smart Driver courses that help seniors brush up on the latest traffic laws, learn about new technologies in cars, and practice safe driving techniques. Some insurance companies will even give you a discount on your car insurance if you complete one of these courses. So, it can save you money in addition to making you a safer driver. These classes are not required in most states, but they can be really helpful, and they show that you're taking your driving seriously. Fourth, be honest with yourself about your abilities and limitations. This is probably the hardest part, but it's also the most important. If you notice that you're having trouble seeing street signs, or that your reaction time seems slower than it used to be, or that you're getting confused more easily when you're driving in unfamiliar areas, don't just ignore those signs. Talk to your doctor about them. It's possible that a simple change in medication or a new pair of glasses could make a big difference. On the other hand, if you're really struggling, it might be time to think about limiting your driving to situations where you feel most comfortable, like avoiding night driving or staying off busy highways. That's not giving up your independence. That's being smart and safe. Finally, start thinking ahead about transportation alternatives. Even if you're driving perfectly fine right now, what will you do if there comes a time when driving is no longer a good option for you? Many communities have senior shuttle services, discounted rideshare programs, or volunteer driver network specifically designed to help older adults get to medical appointments, grocery stores, and social activities. Some religious congregations and community centers organize transportation for their senior members. If you have family nearby, have an honest conversation with them about what kind of help they might be able to provide if needed. The more you plan ahead, the less scary it will be if your driving situation ever does change. Let's also address one more rumor that's been going around, which is the claim about huge fines and even jail time for older drivers who don't comply with these supposed new rules. Here's the truth: if you drive with an expired license regardless of your age, you can get a ticket and a fine. That's always been true. The amount of the fine varies by state, and yes, in some states it can be pretty expensive, potentially a few hundred or in rare cases more. But there is no special $500 fine that specifically targets senior drivers who miss a renewal deadline. That's completely made up. And as for jail time, the only way you're going to face jail time related to your driver's license is if you repeatedly drive while your license is suspended or revoked and you're caught doing it multiple times, or if you're involved in a serious accident while driving without a valid license. Simply forgetting to renew on time is not going to land you in jail. You'll get a ticket, you'll have to pay a fine, and you'll need to get your license renewed, but that's it. The bottom line is this: as a driver 65 and older in 2026, you are not facing some massive new federal crackdown on your driving privileges. The scary stories you've seen online are mostly false, created by artificial intelligence or spread by people who didn't fact-check what they were sharing. What you do need to know is that each state has its own rules, and those rules have been in place for years. Some states require more from older drivers than others. But in general, if you can still see well, if you're healthy and alert, and if you're driving safely, you should have no problem keeping your license. Make sure you have your real ID taken care of if you plan to fly. Check your state-specific requirements well before your renewal date. Keep up with your eye exams and medical checkups. Stay informed, stay safe, and don't let internet rumors stress you out. You've been driving for decades, and you have every right to continue doing so as long as you're able to do it safely. Just take the time to understand what's actually required in your state. Prepare properly for your renewal and ignore all those fear-mongering posts that are spreading false information. Focus on the facts, not the fiction, and you'll be just fine on the road in 2026 and beyond.